I think I'm kind of seeing a trend here, seeing a lot of roles or a lot of roles where this is going to be very valuable. So man, keep going there. We'd love to see it. Very nice. Very nice. And a lot of people that I'm familiar with. I'm sure, Zach, you probably recognize a lot of folks in here as well. I guess let's get into some introductions. My name is Blake. I'm a customer success manager with Concord. Me and my colleague Vanessa are the two CSMs here with Concord. And so all of you current customers, we support you, and our job is to get to know you and support you. If you have not chatted with one of us, we would love to hear from you if you're a current customer. So reach out to us. There are our emails there. I'm also going to put mine in the chat. While I'm doing that, Zach, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, nice to see everyone. I'm Zach Kinsey, head of sales here at Concord. I've been with Concord about 10 years now, and I'm based out of Salt Lake City, Utah. Glad to be walking through this demo today. And a lot of my demos, because I get to demo all of our new customers and people that are coming into Concord, a lot of them revolve around just how we manage data and, how to kind of do best practices around that data, where to put it, how to track it, how to report on it. So that's what we're going to be covering today in the system for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is good. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, Zach, and maybe let you kind of get started. But to preface it, like, I'm seeing some folks in the chat that are, I would expect to have more of an end user role on Concord. I'm also seeing people that, maybe have more of an administrative role on Concord. And what I like about this topic is it's a good one for both, right? So admins, if you're thinking about ways to make your repository just more robust, again, get really true value out of Concord, listen up for the things and the systems that you can put in place. But then, individual users, if there's things that you wish you could see at a glance, but you've never been able to, or if you have expectations on yourself, here's how you meet those expectations and add that data. So, yeah, so exciting topic. I guess I'll stop talking. Zach, do you want to take it from here?
Yeah, you're good. No problem at all. Um, I did share my screen, right? Yes.
Yep. Yep. We can see it. Yeah.
Great. So yeah, let me kind of run through some of the basics of data in Concord. There's a lot of different ways of tracking data in the system. I'll kind of just start with the basics. Concord at its basis is a document or contract management solution. Everything is very much document driven, meaning that every single thing that we do in there is tied to a specific document. We have lots of different types of data fields. If you click on the little lightning bolt, that's our automation screen. This is where you can come in and actually start building out your different types of fields. So we have our smart fields, and I'm going to actually go through all of our field types, and we're going to talk about how they get applied in the system. Do we put them in the document? Do we put them into the summary sheet data? And then how do we track them? So first of all, we're going to start with smart fields. Smart fields are really something only for your internal templates. Like a document that you're creating that you want to apply a field to, drop that in there. You can create whatever kind of fields you want in the system. I mean, you can create whatever like field name you want. On smart fields, you can either do a text field or a number field. So let me just show you like a real world example of that. If I were to jump into my template here, I can actually show where I would insert those fields into the document. So first I'm going to come in here and click edit. I'm going to go fillable fields. I'll choose who that field's going to be filled by. So we can do like external, internal, anyone, all those types of things there. And then I could drag and drop the smart fields here into the document. So with field insertion, we have signature fields, we have a few standard data fields, and then we have the smart fields themselves, which are those fields you were just creating there. Now with smart fields, you'll fill them in. They will get captured here in the summary sheet. So you'll see here I've got that summary sheet smart field data. So as you fill that in into the document, it's going to add that automatically to the summary sheet. So that's our smart fields kind of starting there. If you're working off your own templates in Concord, if you're building out your templates, a smart field is an important thing because it's going to help you get the exact field's name that you want in the document. Blake, anything you want to add about smart fields?
No, I mean, I think that you kind of like what you're saying, they unlock a lot of functions on Concord. There's a lot of different places to, to see your data, which I'm sure he'll get to. And so I like smart fields because, you can see it in the document, you can see it on the summary panel, but then they'll also show up in reports. uh, a lot of you maybe are asking, what's the difference between properties, which he'll get to, tags, maybe what you're used to, smart fields, all these sorts of things. If those are sort of the questions that maybe you guys ever have, feel free to reach out to us. We can always have those in-depth conversations because there's a lot of different ways to do what Zach's getting ready to share. So yeah, not much. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Cool. Let's talk about properties. So a custom property is something that is actually not super old with Concord. We released this about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I'm very happy that we did because a lot of our customers said, hey, we want to be able to add custom data into the summary sheet and be able to keep track of certain things that are important to our business. And so that's where we really came up with these properties. So properties are pretty expansive as far as what you can create. So you've got the ability to create a new property here, and then we have a lot of different choices. So as you can see, short text, long text, we've got numbers, single and multi-select, we've got date and time, yes, no's, currencies, and then even the ability to select a user within that specific field. So you can create as many properties as you want here in the system. You can also use these properties. The properties are great because they get added to the reporting, they get added in your inbox filters, your inbox views. You can do a lot with them in the system. But where you would actually apply those is into the document itself. So let's say that I've got this contract here. I'm inside of my summary sheet data, and I can now come in down into my properties section, and I can choose to add one of those different properties here. So for example, let's say that we want to add a property for a risk level of this contract. Maybe it's our compliance team and they want to be able to put a risk level in based on their assessment. And so I can come in here and actually say what that's going to look like. This is a low risk contract. Great. I'm going to go ahead and insert that. So now I could actually build a report and say, hey, I want to see all my contracts that have a high risk level or a low risk level. And I can easily see those because I have that data in the system now. Blake's nickname at Concord is the property brother. So Blake, you I'm sure have a lot to add about properties. What do you want to add here?
Yeah, I just think that this is like kind of like Zach was saying, it's like one of the best like improvements that we've made in a long time to help customize things. I'll speak to the existing customers right now. Like if you guys are using tags, um, and you like tags, odds are you probably like do genuinely like them, but you probably have some gaps or some ways that you wish they would could be better. Properties really meet those, kind of fill those gaps. So if a lot of what I've been doing recently is working with customers that have a robust tagging structure to help them migrate into properties. And so, we can talk about why maybe later or something, but I just think if you are currently on a tagging system and you like it, let's talk about properties because it can do so much more. But I just really think adding those properties are really where the value unlocks for Concord. But yeah, man, I love them. I think it's a really great way to personalize it, get a lot of value out of the system.
Yep, totally agree. Awesome. Let's talk about, so we can add them to our documents. You can also have properties set up on your individual template level. So that's an important thing to mention too, is like you don't have to necessarily come in here and create them every single time, because if you are working off a template in Concord, you can have your standard properties set there as well. So with any of the metadata in Concord, if I'm on a template, I can come in here and add in different pieces of data that I want to apply for any contract that gets created from this template. So for example, if I did want to tag it, I could. If I did want to set like a standard term, like maybe this contract, and we haven't even got into terms yet, but maybe it has like a 1 year period on this contract, great, I can set that. Like there's just all sorts of different things that I can put in here. But especially with those properties, this one's got like current contract status is already a property on there. I could come in here and add something else like contract owner. And hey, this contract owner is always going to be Abigail because that's the contact for this type of agreement in the organization. So that way I don't even have to think about it. Like it's just going to automatically be assigned. So you can add a lot of these fields on the template itself, and then they will get applied to any version that you create off of that template or any draft, I should say. Now let's talk about what we do, why that data is so important is because here inside of our inbox, we can now filter by all of that data. So I can come in here and say, hey, I want to see all of my contracts that have, going back to that risk level, I want to see all my contracts that have a low risk on them. So I can come in here and I can see that contract, or maybe I want to do a few different risk levels here in the system, and I don't know if I have too many of them in the system. I probably don't, but that's going to be able to just allow me to filter down and find the data that I'm looking for. I can also save this filter as a report. I could export it to Excel. I can do a lot of different things with it. But the power of having that data in Concord is then it's easy to find sets of agreements, create reports, do all those types of things. So, awesome. Let's go ahead and move into the next type of field here or piece of data. So we've talked about smart fields and properties. Those are kind of the main two things, other than I want to jump into a contract itself and talk through how to track a few other things in the system. So, Blake, anything you want to add for now?
No, I mean, the only thing I would say is if it, you know, it might feel like it's daunting, right? Currently, a lot of, oh, I do actually see a Q and A. I'll get to the question here in a second, but it is currently, if you're not on a specific plan, it is manual. It's worth the effort, but I think maybe where he's going to go is something definitely if you're like thinking about the amount of work that's going to take to put it in, I think definitely listen to this next part. But no. Let me read this actually to you. After you add in properties, then assigning them to a given contract or set of agreements, i.e. contract owner, how could that better be used for notifications? I actually have an answer to that, maybe if we want to answer it at the end. I might let him go, but I'm going to get to this maybe at the end if we have time, and I'll reach out if we don't.
I mean, you can just answer now
You
if you
had?
want.
Okay, cool. So it's the thing is we have we with our current deadline reminders, right? We're the way that we're sending these contract deadline reminders out is it's all the contracts that you have access to. You can actually go into the deadline section right now and create custom shared deadline views. And those will be based on two different criteria, right? A date range, like I want to see contracts that end in the next 180 days or deadlines within the next 180 days, for example. But then also what you can do is you can filter the type of deadline out, the type of deadline as well. Currently, that's where it stops. So to answer this question, there's not necessarily a great way right now for how the contract owner field, for example, could be better used for notifications. However, one reason why I'm saying everybody should add properties is because if you want to customize your deadline reminders, start adding properties like contract owner or make sure your parties are filled out because those filters that you're familiar with, they're coming to the deadline section. Now it's expected that this is going to come and be included in Horizon and in our newest kind of platform, right? But you'll be able to say, I want to send all of Zach's contracts only to him. So he's not going to see all of the rest of the sales department's contracts. He's only going to see his contracts. So start now. Basically, what I'm saying, how could that be better used for notifications? You're building the foundation now to be able to use future features later. So yeah, I hope that made sense. Kind of, it's kind of talking about future features and things, but it'll be really, really valuable, especially later down the road when one, it's pulled automatically, and two, when it's when we can create custom deadline reminders based off those.
Yep, I just got an update yesterday. We're completely redoing how we do notifications within Concord to make them much more customizable. So
Yeah.
we're excited about that. It'll probably be we're a few months away for sure at least
Hmm.
before that gets released, but we're excited to I think it'll be a big help.
Yeah.
Um, cool. Let's go ahead and run through a few things here in the summary sheet. So as I talked about earlier, Concord is a document-driven solution. I get a lot of people that come with a lot of use cases. They're like, how do I do this? How do I do that? I'm like, just remember, everything in Concord is derived from a document level. So we've got the document here. I've got all the metadata here. And so this metadata is attached to the specific document. So in the system, we have a lot of types of data and a lot of things you can track. So we have that agreement category. This is a standard field that we have in the system with some standard options. The AI will, if you have an AI enabled plan, if you don't, you probably will in the near future here at some point, but the AI will actually pick up and try to assess like what type of agreement category this is. It'll also look for that document type field as well. If you don't like what the AI put in, or if you want to put something in manually, great, you can do that here as well. And for everyone that's going to ask a question, yes, we are working on adding some more options here and making this more customizable. So that's being worked on. We have the parties field, so who the contract is with. I can maybe quickly show you the parties management library that we have in a second. We also have a description field. The AI is going to fill this out for you. You can also manually enter one or change that if you wanted to. We have our tags, which tags for a long time at Concord were like the way that we did everything as far as like just doing quick reports or filters or different things. We're very much trying to move away from that because their tags are just one static field and there's just so much more we can do with custom properties. So, tags are still fine, still use them, but we are replacing them kind of the general usage with properties for the most part. We do also have that contract linking, so the ability to link your documents together. I cannot tell you how many times every day I get to answer questions about amendments management and like, hey, I've got a new amendment to this contract. How do I actually manage that inside of Concord? So our recommendation is you create the main agreement. Some like 6 months later, there's an amendment to that agreement, or 2 weeks later, or whatever it might be. You're actually going to want to link those documents together so that you have that relationship within them. So that way, whenever you come into any one of those agreements, you'll see the other documents that are related. We have our lifecycle data, which is of course one of the most important parts of Concord, being able to keep track of when it was signed, effective, duration, all your renewal information, and then also those early termination notices. The AI should pick this up. You can also manually enter it. One that gets a lot of people is they forget to put in the termination notice. If the contract has a 60-day notice of termination and we forget about that, and we're notifying them 30 days before, we might be stuck in that contract. So that's a really important one to try to make sure to capture if we can. And then down below that, we talked about properties already. Key terms. So this is where I was heading. So key terms is a really interesting one. Right now we have our total agreement value field extracting with the AI and setting it here in the key term. So that's great. There's a lot of ways you can actually use key terms. And I think people, as we've added a lot of other fields, have kind of forgotten a little bit about what key terms are. This used to be a really big thing in Concord. So there's a lot of things you can do with this. Let me just show you a few options. So I'm going to come in here and add a custom term where I see this used by some of our power user customers most often is they'll use this to keep track of additional deadlines. They'll use it to keep track of payments that are due or payments that are owed, and then just any other type of like deadline or thing they want to keep track of within that contract. So for example, maybe I have a payment that's due on a certain date. So I'm going to come in here and say, payment due. I'm going to come down to my duration. So I can say, hey, this specific payment's going to actually be due on October 24th. And I can put in the financial amount here, what's to be paid or collected. So we need to pay this payment. I'm going to come in here and do this, $1,500 before tax, and I'm going to go ahead and add that in. So that's actually setting a deadline alert for that specific payment that's going to become due. And so the system can notify me along with all my other notifications, okay, this is coming due. You need to make sure that you take care of this. So we can do that for payments. We can do that for a certificate of insurance expiring because, as you know, most of the time you'll have your deadline for the life cycle of the contract, but you're going to have other pieces of the agreement, like a certificate of insurance or when a project's due or when there's other deliverables, they may be completely separate from the agreement. So you can set those up as additional terms here and deadlines in the system. I was just talking to a customer yesterday. They manage a bunch of different properties. They have all of these different deliverables due at different times that are tied to specific contracts. And they're using Concord to manage all of those deadlines in the system. So they'll take their master agreement, they'll go in and they'll put all their deadlines in, and then they just keep track of them directly through the tool. So there's a lot that you can do there for sure. The other use case with key terms is if you wanted to keep track of something that was maybe not standard. So let's say that we have a very high limitation of liability on an agreement that we don't normally agree to. I can come in and put in that information here. So I could like copy and paste the actual language in for that limitation of liability. And then I can drop in, hey, this is the amount, not really to be paid or collected, just the amount here in this case, and I can put that in. So just giving you a couple ideas of ways that you could track data in the system. And just keep in mind, like you can add this data to reports, you can see it other places, but it's a great way to kind of just have that there. Blake, any other use cases you can think of with
Yeah,
the key
I
terms?
Yeah, for sure. Like this is definitely one that like is kind of underutilized, like sadly underutilized. Kind of, taking actually a property example as well. There's even more things that you could do beyond just like what is available in like the dedicated life cycle section. So for example, you can do like recurring deadlines. I have somebody that has they have landscaping contracts for their properties and they've set up recurring deadlines so that every month they get a reminder that the bushes need to be trimmed, right? There's like if you just need a custom deadline, that's a great way to unlock it. I think it's super, super great.
Yep.
So yeah, I love the key terms. I'm really glad that you covered it. We do have a question actually just came up too. Can we do an alert once a certain spend level under a contract has been reached? For example, if 70% of the contract value has been reached. Um, Not so that's actually an interesting question. Let me maybe reread it.
What? Yeah, where is the question? Oh, here we go.
It's in the Q&A. Yeah.
Um, The answer is no, but
Yeah.
so you could set up an alert to check in on that. And so I have customers that do this where they'll check in on an amount like once a month. They'll just set an alert for that specific contract that says, hey, I need to go in and look at this. We don't currently have something that says once a contract reaches a certain amount. That's kind of like an obligation tracking tool that we definitely have on our radar, not something that we currently have planned for Horizon, but something that we have been asked about before. So not currently there. You could set a reminder to go in and check on that, but it's not going to automatically notify you based on an amount.
Yeah,
So.
great question. And then somebody's asking, I mentioned about, kind of migrating from tags to properties. So someone's asking about that process, asking, is there a way to do it in bulk? Which absolutely, that's what I kind of help people with because, let's say you have tags based on the department, for example, and you want to have a drop down list in properties that are all of your departments. It's exactly what you're thinking, right? Where you filter by the finance department and then you can, to answer the question, apply that finance property in bulk, right? So that's it's a pretty easy way to migrate it. So that's exactly it. You can add properties in bulk. You're going to do that from your inbox. We're going to select a bunch of boxes, but yeah, absolutely that is possible. Thanks for asking it.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's definitely something to reach out to your CSM about. And if you don't know who your CSM is, the best way to get a hold of everybody is just send an email to support@concord.app. So if you don't know who your CSM is, send an email there, and then they'll get that assigned to your right CSM. So
That's exactly right. Just put that in the chat. So great call out, Zach.
perfect. Couple other field types. Oh, let's not even talk about custom fields. That's the we don't talk about that. No, I'm just kidding. Smart fields here I talked about already. Custom fields. This was a thing back in the day where you could add like custom fields in the system and keep track of them. Honestly, we don't really recommend using them anymore because they're kind of in a way going away. But and they're hard because they're not as easy to report
Yeah.
on. I just really wouldn't recommend using these. I would recommend sticking to either the key terms or the custom properties or the tags. Those are going to be
You're
the three ways to keep track of data. Blake, would you disagree with me on
I
that?
agree with you. No, I agree with you fully percent. I call it this like a scratch pad. That's essentially what it is, right? It's a place to just put some notes, put some scratch pads, but to Zach's point, it's not going to filter, it's not going to show in reports. It's there, it's at the bottom. People use it and we kept it, but agreed. Stick with the other stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Um
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So if we want to use the property section going forward, how can we bulk add stuffs instead of going into every contract? So this one, the recommendation here, there's kind of two different ways that I recommend this. As Zach mentioned earlier, adding a property to your templates probably is the best way to do this. So that all of your new contracts that you're drafting off of these templates will also have blank properties in them. Um, Another tool that we have, this is available on our like current plan. So if you're on like a legacy enterprise, if you guys have been with us for a while, you may not have this, but workflows is another great way where you can trigger the addition of properties. So to answer your question, if you want to use properties moving forward, the way that you add them to every contract, templates are going to be the best way, but also properties, or excuse me, workflows are another great way to maybe accomplish that.
Yep. Um, yeah, I think that's a good answer to the question. Um, I was thinking of something and then anyway, yep, that
Yeah.
covered it, I think.
Yeah.
I see there's a couple other questions here too. Can we review setting up deadline reminders and notifications once all these are set up? Yes, happy to run through some of that, and you can also get with your CSM, and then also setting up these fields on contracts not created in the software. So there is one workaround that the extreme power users of Concord use. I'm gonna put a notification here. This is an expert level Concord hack if you wanted to use it. So just putting that out there. I do have a lot of customers where they'll come in here and they'll actually build a blank template. So what I mean by that is let's go in and do it. I'll show you real quick. So if I went to new template, I'm just going to go blank template here. I would call this I would call this template vendor contract intake. Blake, I think you know where I'm going with this.
I did. Yeah, yeah, it's a great one.
And then I'm going to come in here to my summary sheet, my metadata, and I'm going to add all the different metadata fields I want for this specific type of intake. So what I'm doing is I'm saying, okay, anytime I get a vendor contract from a third party, this is not my paper, from a third party, I'm going to come into this template and I'm going to start from here and then I'll upload the contract to it. And what this does is it enables me to have all that data preset. So I can have like my tags will be set up here already. So I'll have like vendor contract, as a tag. I could have it in the right folder. So I can automatically move this into my vendor agreement folder in the system. So where did that go? Anyway, let's just say I'm moving that folder. Great. So I can have that put into a correct folder. I can also have all of my custom properties applied to this. So now I can come in here to my different properties that I want. I can save them on this view. And so instead of me having to come in and manually do this every time I have a new contract to review, I'm going to start from this vendor intake. I'm going to click. So I'll just kind of show you how I would actually use this. So when I've got my template here, all I'll do is come in and click start draft. I'll take the contract that the vendor or third party sends me. I'll drag and drop it in. Great. Bring that into Concord, import it here. And then I've already got all that data set on the document because I set it up from the template level. So I can already have my tags here. I can already have my properties. It's already in the right folder. So that is something that a lot of our customers use, just so you don't have to like recreate that data every single time. They'll use that type of kind of intake template, we call it. So. Blake, anything you want to add there?
No, I love it. I love it. Just make sure to move it into that sign stage by finalizing it. That'll also run that AI on it automatically for you. If you're just storing it within Concord, I guess. But no,
Yeah, if
that's
you're just
exactly.
storing it, yeah, what Blake is referring to is once you're done with everything, let's say that you're done with that negotiation. Let's say that you upload a contract that's already signed and you just want to use the metadata portion. So I'm uploading something that's not in draft, it's in signed actually.
Mm,
I would just come in here to signature, click finalize signing, and that's now telling Concord, okay, the contract's signed. Like I don't need to do anything else with it, and then that way it's moving into that sign stage. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. Thanks for clarifying that. And a quick, actually, someone asked a follow-up question. Does this have to be in Word format or PDFs? Both work. Word format,
Okay.
PDF files, they both work. Yeah.
Yep. And it can be an already signed document that you're uploading. Totally fine. I'm just showing how to
Hmm.
keep the standard metadata, keep all the data in the system, and then move it through the process. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I said, that's an expert level tip. So you may or may not want to use it. I don't know, but
Yeah. Yeah.
we do have a lot of customers that use it, and I think that works pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Look, so now we are approaching time, and I know we have a lot of questions in the chat. So I think what we might want to do is wrap up and again encourage you guys. What I'm going to do is put in that email into maybe Zach will put his email. We'll also put that support email. Reach out to either of us with your questions.
Well,
We'll
we can do a
You want to hit
rapid fire
some?
and answer these. Yeah,
Okay.
let's do them real quick. Easy,
All
easy,
right.
no problem. So can you
All
share a
right.
list of suggested recommended properties that we can add? That's a great question. I think we had one at some point, right, Blake? Do we have one? A list of properties?
I I no, not necessarily. I've just been kind of sharing my list of properties that were built for me. I kind of like them. Um,
Okay, cool.
yeah.
We can reach out to your CSM or support. We can help with that. That's pretty easy. Um, I've used a custom field to keep track of notice address. What's a better way to track that info? Linda, that's a great question. I would make that a custom property for sure,
Same.
because then you can add it into your reports and your filters. So you can reach out to your CSM to help you maybe to migrate that over, and we can take a look at that. So we will want to do that as a custom property. Is there an additional learning center within Concord other than the help page, something that might have video tutorials or access to these past webinar recordings? I mean, we do have our help panel right here that gives you access into lots of different things. So you can send in requests. You can also jump into this. I don't know where all the recordings are stored. Do we store them
I
somewhere?
Yeah, they actually get posted on our YouTube channel, which I will post a link to here in a second.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of videos on our YouTube channel for sure.
Yeah. And so yeah, this gets recorded and sent out to all registrants, and then it also will be eventually posted on our YouTube channel.
If uploading a signed contract, what's the best way to ensure the budget owner gets a notification regarding expiration? And that is just to give them access to that document. So
Mhm.
anybody that has access, and we didn't have time to go through all the notifications. If someone has access to a document in Concord and they're an internal user, they will be notified when that contract is going to expire. As long as they have the notifications on, which they will have them on by default. They would have had to go in and turn them off. So the best way to give someone notification access is just make sure that they have access to that document. Yeah.
No. Which touches on one question from that last question from Elizabeth about review setting up deadline reminders and notifications once all these are set up. Just make sure people have access to your document. It's literally add the lifecycle details, make sure people have access to documents. It'll all be, there's some maybe some more customization that I kind of touched on, but that's basically it.
Yep.
You're right, Zach. We did crush through it. That was a good call.
I mean, come on, we can power through this, no problem. Excellent. Thank you all for your time today. We don't want to keep you longer. If you have follow-up questions, reach out to Blake, myself, Vanessa, or just reach out to our support email that we shared earlier. That's the best way to get a hold of someone if you don't know who your contact person is. So feel free to reach out and yeah, have a great rest of the day, great rest of the week.
Hey, carry on. Thank you.